Hi, I'm Dr. Janice Morrow. Thanks for joining us for another episode of American Mood Swings, where we talk about the brain and all things related to mental health. Welcome. So today's guest is Elisabeth Coursen. We're going to be discussing postpartum depression, mental health for pregnant women, and their journey afterwards. And she has founded a new project called the Real Moms Club to help mothers that are struggling with these issues. So we're so happy to have her here. It's mental health. We're just wrapping up Mental Health Awareness Month and women's mental health. So got her in just the nick of time. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Right. Well, thank you. Well, let's talk about, I believe that you are kind of a semi-retired or you had a career in postpartum nursing, and that's a field I had never heard of. So let's talk about what drew you into that and how was that?
Yeah, sure. So it's postpartum nursing, or another name for it is mother-baby nursing. I always loved working with the babies. I love being around them. And so that's the whole reason why I went to nursing school, was to become a postpartum nurse. So postpartum nursing or mother-baby nursing is when the moms, after they deliver, they go to another unit. So we help the moms recover. We will help them with breastfeeding or like bottle feeding, show the moms how to bathe the baby. It's just where they go after they deliver. I know some units, some hospitals, it's called LDRP. So you labor in the same room and you recover in the same room, usually in smaller hospitals. But I've only worked in hospitals where labor and delivery is one unit and then postpartum is another unit. So after you have the baby, you're just staying in the labor and delivery room for a couple of hours to recover, and then you're transferred to the postpartum unit. And so that's where postpartum nursing comes in.
And it sounds, but from what I've read or seen you talk about, even though you had like 12 years experience when you had a baby, you felt like you still weren't prepared. Well, how was that? Like it's hard for me to even imagine that if you've been doing this, like that you could be surprised with anything. But
I know. Yeah, so I was a postpartum nurse for 12 years before my son was born. So I knew what to expect physically. I knew like how the healing process would go. I know that like babies need to eat every like 2 to 3 hours at first. I knew you were going to be sleep deprived. Like I knew all those things. I was prepared for it. And I knew how to breastfeed too, because I was teaching new moms how to breastfeed. I just was not prepared for how I was going to feel emotionally. Like I knew like your hormones are all out of whack after you have a baby. I knew that like a lot of moms would get like the postpartum blues, and like I know all the different stages, but like you don't truly know how that feels until you go through it yourself. So I was just being a new mom, I just felt completely overwhelmed with all the new mom stuff, and like I was anxious. I was like super focused for some reason on my baby's like schedule. The baby's like a week old. I was like trying to keep him on like, a certain schedule, even though that's not realistic. Like, I don't know. I was just like super focused on that. It was just kind of like hard for me to adjust emotionally, because it was just like so much stuff that like I was not really prepared for mentally, that just I felt. Like the physical part, like I knew that. Like I knew it was going to take a while to heal. But the mental part, I was just like, do all moms go through this? Is this what every new mom feels? Do they always feel over like a
well,
life change?
I'd love to know if when you first had the baby, how old is your son now? Is he to three or two? Is
He's
he?
4 now.
Oh, he's four.
He's 4.
So I don't know if you have, I'd love to know if you have like family around you and what that was like, because I live in Los Angeles. So it's just kind of a disconnected, scattered town. So many people came out here for entertainment. So there's not a big like community or family support. A lot of people don't go to church anymore. I grew up very in a church community. So women rallied around and helped this kind, we'd babysit and help the moms. But I'd love to know if your family's around and what kind of support system you have, and if you were receptive to that. And also, I'm really curious about what paid time leave. I'm learning a lot by researching for these episodes because I didn't
Mhm.
realize until just like the last couple of months or so that women, that like US had some of the worst maternal leave policy. And so I'm still not really clear how much exactly is paid off and time off and all that.
Yeah. So I live in Massachusetts. My husband's family live in Rhode Island, about an hour away. So his parents live there, his sister, her husband, and kids. And my mom and dad live in West Virginia. I'm originally from West Virginia. Um, so initially about for like a month, it was just basically me and my husband. And then like my husband's family would come over too frequently, like when I first had him to help out and visit. But then I don't know, like that kind of also made me even a little bit more overwhelmed having like so many people
Oh,
over at my apartment. Because it was like his parents and then his sister, husband, and three kids. So there was
oh.
just like a lot.
Stress,
I
yeah.
don't know how, I mean, yeah. Normally I'd be like, cool, yeah, everyone come over. But then after I had the baby, I was like, ah, I need to keep him on the schedule. I don't know. I was so obsessed with that. I don't know, just kind of made me a little bit even more overwhelmed at first. And they would help out. They would try to like do the dishes and like fold clothes, do the laundry and stuff like that. And then a month after I had my son, my mom came, she flew down and stayed with me for 5 weeks. So that was very helpful. Um, but then after the 5 weeks, when she went back home, it's like I had to find a new routine again because I was used to having her there to help out with a lot of things. She was a lifesaver. So then when she left, I had to like figure out another new routine without her because she did so much for us. So that was another hard transition. So now it's just basically me and my husband taking care of our son because my husband's family, his parents are older, and his dad has dementia, and his mom is the primary caregiver too, and her health is also not the greatest, so they can't really help out with like babysitting. And then my parents are like 12 hours away, so they can't help out. And like I have some friends that will occasionally watch my son, and then if I'm in a bind or I'll like ask a babysitter, but yeah, so we don't really have a whole lot of
Yeah,
family support.
support. Well, I would love, yeah, I'd love to ask people that. I know with my friends, well, they're all grandmothers now, the girls, the women I grew up with, but they are having, they're all, one of them, a childhood friend, her daughter lives near me. She's 41 now, so she has a 3 years old and a 1 years old, and she's like a stay-at-home mom. Her husband makes a lot of money, so she had a sleep nurse when she was pregnant or when the baby was born. They have a
Oh, wow.
I know they have
Yeah.
a full-time nanny, and she's still like, I can't do it. And her mom comes to town whenever they do want to leave town, but I'm like 5 minutes from her, and I always tell her, Mom, I'm happy. I love kids. I'll babysit for them any night, even if they just want to go out like on a date. They've never taken me up on
Yeah.
it, and it's almost
Oh,
sometimes
really?
never. And I offer for lots of people, and I don't know. It's usually like, well, we just want to take the baby with us, but I will get into that later. But I do. I know if I'm not married, but if I was married, I just know myself. I'd still want some. I wouldn't want to feel like we could not leave for 2 hours. I would hope that there'd be, because I know a lot of people like it, and it just seems like it would be really hard on a marriage, like that you could I remember being a teenager, Elisabeth, and my mom, I was like 15 or 16, and I don't know even how it came up, but I definitely have this memory of a conversation. And she's like, just remember when you do get married and have kids, it's really easy to like for mothers to make the baby like the kids become your whole world, and then the marriage, and it's really important to keep your marriage strong and make time for your husband so you
Hmm.
don't just start to feel like a check. They can really, as the years go by, it's just like go to work, give me your check. It was just
Right.
something. But anyway, I do want to go into there's so many things to talk about, but some of the things that I heard you say is that you really struggled with losing your identity after birth. And I'd love to hear more about that because I've been hearing a lot. I'm 58, so I hear a lot from my friends in the last couple of years, like they just make comments like, I feel invisible. and I don't really know what they mean. They don't talk about it. I don't know if they're like feel like invisible to their mates, like not being as sexy or just I don't in the world not feeling appreciated. I'm not really sure. So when you talk about losing your identity, let's talk about that and how you dealt with that and is that better now?
Yeah, it's definitely better now as my son has gotten older. Like I also grew with him as a mom and I feel more like myself. But during the early phases of motherhood when he was a newborn, like under a year old, it's just like I didn't feel like myself because like everything was like devoted, like you said, to the baby, like taking care of him. Like I didn't really like go out as much, like I because it was just like too much work to take a baby with me. So I just kind of get lost in like the everyday things that you have to go through when you have kids, like the feeding, the changing the diapers, make sure he naps. There's like this complete cycle. It's like there's never really a weekend anymore because it's like a Groundhog Day because you do the same thing every day over and over and over and over again. And then when I went back to work, that kind of was added another stressor because it's like, oh, so now I have to work, find time to pump, then come home and like take care of my son. So I just like didn't really get out much when he was a newborn. And then also like the mom guilt played a huge factor too. If like I wanted to go out with my friends, like one time friends, my mom friends, like went on this retreat, I guess you could call it. But I did go, but I didn't spend the night because it was like an overnight thing just because I felt bad because I felt like I wasn't spending enough time with my son because I was at work for 12 hours. 3 times a week, and then so I didn't really see him that much when I came home because he was already in bed because it was dark out. So I felt like I was just missing out on so much of his life, and I was like missing like little phases too, and I like felt bad. So I ended up driving back home. I didn't spend the night with my mom friends, even though like by the time I got home, it was didn't make any sense. He was already asleep, and then like there was this huge like rainstorm, and I had to pull over. I was like crying because I thought I was gonna have to spend the night on the side of the road because it was raining so hard. But I don't know. It was also like that mom guilt too. That was like I'm not spending enough time with my son because I'm like spending most of my time at work. I'm not seeing him enough. So I just kind of like lost like myself and like the things I used to enjoy because I had like prior to kids all this freedom, and now it's just like oh I have none now.
Yeah.
But as he's gotten older, it's gotten a lot easier because now he's in school. He's a little, I mean, not, I wouldn't say independent, but he's like a little more like he can play with himself. He can talk now. Like he can tell me what he wants. So it's like definitely gotten easier as he's gotten older.
Is your husband, I don't know, is he the type like you mentioned this retreat, even now that your son is 4, like would your husband be the type like, hey, why don't you go out to lunch today with the girls? I got the baby. I'm good. I is
Oh
he
yeah. Yeah.
some
He's
husbands
great.
some husbands are terrible that way. Like they don't, but others are like
Oh no, he's not.
he's very
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
independent, so he's good with them.
For sure.
Yeah. What were I'm curious, like what your hobbies and interests were before you had him, and have you been able to resume any of that? Like, for me, exercise is just, I've been a swimmer, so I swam every day for like the last 40 years. And the only time I didn't is during COVID when the pools were closed, right? Or if I'm
Mhm.
traveling. But if I had, I don't have children, but if I did, like somehow I'd have to make that work. Like if I had to leave my baby with a stranger, I can't miss swimming. But how did
Yeah.
you? Or so, I mean, I would just have to like, because I know a lot of people that just don't, they stop all of that. And like, I would just start to go cuckoo if I didn't get out and go for a walk or swim,
Yeah, for
even if
sure.
it's just an hour, but I'd have to get out and do that. So is exercise part of your day or not necessarily? Well, of course, when you were nursing, I don't think you're doing that anymore. So what's your routine like
Oh,
now?
actually, I am still a
Oh,
nurse.
you are.
I
Okay.
don't work on yeah, I don't work on the postpartum unit anymore because after I had my son in 2021, couldn't keep working the night shift
Oh,
hours. Um, so 3 years ago, I transferred to an outpatient clinic. So it's Monday through Fridays. I work day shift, no weekends or holidays. But
nice.
um, yeah, I still work as a nurse, just not postpartum.
Do you like it?
But some of I do. I work in an allergy and immunology clinic, so it's definitely different from what I'm used to. But my true like passion is still with helping the moms and the babies. I miss it. If I had like the perfect schedule, which there is no perfect schedule in the inpatient world of nursing, I probably wouldn't have left the postpartum unit because it's like
That's
what I
really
was felt like I was called to do in life. Yeah. Um, but for my interests and like hobbies prior to kids, like I loved going to the movies, like with my husband. I still love going to the movies, but after I had my son, I go to the movies like maybe once a year, like maybe once or twice a year if I'm lucky. Just because it's like I said, we don't have family close by that can like watch our son too. But now he's at the age where we can like go to the movies with him, see a kid movie.
Do any of your friends ever say, like I said, I offer for all my friends and nobody ever, I'm happy to do it. I love, my mom had a nursery school for 33 years. So my, all of my teenage years and most of my 20s, I was
Oh
there.
wow.
I love kids. So I'm happy. I don't know if they, I really don't know, like if it's they think because I don't have kids, will she know what to do? Or they just
Mm.
want to impose. But if a friend did say, hey, go have a date night, I'm happy to watch the kids. Would you take them up on it?
Oh yeah. For sure.
Okay.
Yes. And I used to love like prior to having my son take like little weekend trips to like it doesn't have to be far. It could just be within the state of Massachusetts, but like go away for the weekend. I mean I don't really do that at all now. Unless it's like a scheduled vacation, but the scheduled vacation is like usually centered around my son, like something that he would enjoy to do. Like next month, we're going to New Hampshire with some friends who also have kids, to a place called like Santa's Village and Storyland, which is like these little kid amusement parks, which I still find enjoyable too because I like going to amusement parks. So our vacations now and our trips are mainly centered towards stuff that our son would enjoy doing, which is fine. I still like doing it. It's just, a different type of fun for us.
When I grew up in the Santa Cruz area, the Bay Area of California, so there was a place, I wonder if it's the same company, but it was called Santa's Village, and it was kind of
Oh,
an amusement park.
yeah.
I don't even remember if I went. It was on the way to the Santa Cruz, and I think it went out of business years ago or was sold. But the thing in LA or the thing in well, the big things are Disneyland, of course.
Yes.
Everybody to go there. Universal Studios is like 5 minutes from where I live, and
Oh,
and then,
awesome.
and then Legoland, which is funny because that's one thing. Disneyland and Legoland to me, I haven't been there in 40 years. It was like 107 outside, hour
Oh,
lines. Everything's like, $100. So I'm
yeah.
like, I'm never coming back here again. Never.
Yeah.
But Legoland's a real big destination for people with kids. It's like,
Yeah.
woo!
Yeah.
Legoland. Maybe one day you'll be out here. Um, let's talk about well, I guess you're sleeping through the night now, and uh
Yes.
wh- what are what are some things that we can do to help our friends, that are going through, and well, let's talk about mental health, really. Did you, when you were struggling, I know you've mentioned anxiety in some of your Instagram posts. Was it like depression too? And if it was depression, did you ever talk to anybody through like telehealth, or did your insurance cover, was that a part of your treatment or not necessarily? Because I know a lot of women don't have access to that, but what tools did you use to kind of like rein it in, the feelings that you had?
So I never struggled with postpartum depression. I just mainly struggled with postpartum anxiety and just being like feeling very overwhelmed every day. And my insurance did cover therapy sessions at the time, but for some reason, it didn't even like occur to me like, oh, I need therapy. Because I'm like, oh, I think this is just like something every new mom has to go through, like the, initiation to motherhood, feeling like you don't know what you're doing and you're overwhelmed. So I mainly just like talked to my friends who also had a baby recently, if they're feeling the same things I'm feeling, and also like my other friends who have multiple kids, if like they felt this too when they first had their firstborn, and if it was like normal. And so they're like, oh yeah, I felt like the same way. So it was like good to feel like validated in my feelings that like what I was feeling was like common to most new moms. But I just kind of worked my way through it. I didn't go through any therapy sessions, although now I'm seeing a therapist.
Oh,
And I'm like, I should have just saw a therapist when I like first had Daxton, my son, and probably would have helped a lot more because they're very helpful. But yeah, just mainly ask my friends their
different.
journey and what they like felt and went through, and they're like, oh yes, like it's common, it's normal. Not I won't say like normal, but it's like very common for all new moms to feel like that. So like you're not like going through something foreign. Like this is like what we all kind of go through, which was
Well,
helpful to hear.
it does just from talking to different friends, it does feel like and I don't know if it's a societal thing, almost like this so self-imposed comparison, like wanting to be the perfect mom, and there's no perfect mom, and it's just different for everyone. Like, oh, this is just something I can remember, like, and we've seen it in sitcoms, like you'll see oh, I don't know if you're old enough to remember a show called Everybody Loves Raymond, but
Oh
Deborah.
yes.
So I love that sitcom, and they had it was seemed
Me too.
very real, right? And she has four kids in real life, that actress. That's why they chose
Mm.
her, actually. She was, but this is a funny story on a side note. She was late to the audition because she couldn't find a babysitter, and she ended up bringing one of her she has four boys, and she brought one of her boys to the audition, and he was running around, and she's like, I'm never getting this part. And they offered her the part. You're like, you are this character. It's a really funny story. But there's like an episode where she's at a ball game and it's your day to bring snacks, and so you bring like something you picked up at Costco, and then there's the mom that makes the homemade cookies, and so there's this like little digs back and forth. And actually I can remember something. I would never say it now because it was like 35 years ago. I was going to school at UC San Diego studying neuroscience, okay, and I
Hmm.
grew up Mormon, so all these women, most of the women got married very young and already had kids. And I remember a lady at church saying something to me once. It was like a little dig, honestly. She was like, "Oh, it must be nice to just get to read all day." Like honestly, it was just, yeah, it made me UCSD, it wasn't an easy program curriculum. It was really hard.
Hmm.
But it definitely felt like, and I remember I responded like, well, it must be nice to get to stay home and play with kids all day. But that I would never say that now. And I certainly think that it's not about playing with kids all day. It's a 24-hour, super, super hard job. But I was kind of annoyed that she said that. And
Oh yeah, I would
but
be too.
well, that's what I mean. I can see women doing this to one another instead of like kind of respecting a lot of, I mean, this whole and working from home now too has changed everything. I have many friends with kids that are all work from home, but it's stressful. They still have to hire a nanny, especially if they have
Yeah.
two to three, because they can't like be on. I know one of them got fired from a
Right.
job because
Oh
it was too chaotic, right? I mean,
yeah.
before
Rough.
they got a nanny. Because anyway, let's get back. What are some of the things that we can do to help our friends or new moms, like looking back when your earlier time as a friend or a sister or a family member, other than saying, let me babysit for you again, and if they're not receptive to it, but what would have really helped you? Would you have loved it, like if someone said, it's when your son was 6 months, if one of your friends had said, I'm coming over tonight. I'm making dinner. You and your husband go out and have a date night. Do you think you would have been receptive when he was little, or would you have been like, no way, we're not leaving him with anybody until he's a little older?
Oh, no, depending on the person, yeah, I would
Would
totally feel comfortable leaving my son. I think for like the newborn phase, just offering, like you said, to come over and like drop off a meal, like doesn't necessarily have to be home cooked. You can just be like takeout, so you're not like scrambling to cook dinner every night. Um, just like offering to like come over and just hold the baby so you can like take a shower or take
Oh,
a nap. Like my sister-in-law offered like watch the baby like at the house so I could take a nap, but I could never fall asleep when people were over. But I definitely like took a shower, like took some time for myself. Let's see here. I think also just instead of like giving advice to the moms, just like listening to them because moms don't need like more advice from other people. Just like listening to them, asking them how like they're doing as well, like celebrating them and not just the baby. I think, like those are some
What,
ways to
what,
support moms.
what kind of support, what's the maternity policy like where you were working at the time when you gave birth and the state of Boston? Like how much time did you get off,
Yeah.
paid time off? And is there a national policy now or is it state by state?
Yeah. So for Massachusetts, it started back in 2019. They started taking a little bit of our pay out for the state. And then in 2021, they implemented this Paid Family Medical Leave Act. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like you're having a baby. It could also be for your own personal illness or taking care of a family member. Or I think also if you are like you served in like the army or like you're a veteran, um, you can take up to 26 weeks off per year. But for like maternity leave, it started in January 1st of 2021. You could take up to 20 weeks off paid maternity leave. And it's not like your full like salary, of course. It's like you have it depends what you make, and then you'll get like a certain amount from the state, but you can also supplement your pay with short-term disability. So you can have like two sources of income while you're out on maternity leave. So for short-term disability and one from the state. Um, and then you could it depends like where you work, like the hospital I work at now, you can also like choose to supplement some of your vacation time as well. Or the place that I worked at, though, when I had my son, you weren't allowed to supplement like your earned time when you were out on maternity leave. But I'm like so thankful that Massachusetts did put that like act in place because I'm like, at 3 months, I was not ready to go back to work. I'm like, how do people do this? Like, how did moms do this before? Like, I'm just kind of starting to like get used to being a mom and like the routine, but I was still like super sleep deprived. Um, but with the 20 weeks off, so it's like 5 months, you kind of got more like footing underneath you and you kind of developed somewhat of a routine before going back to work, even though
So
that
that's
part was also stressful.
the 5 months was with maternity leave then and the disability together. That's what go okay, that gives you the five
Yeah.
months. Okay. So what did
Well,
you
it was like 12 weeks for it was like 12 weeks for like bonding leave, but then it was also like 8 weeks to recover from the delivery, from like a C-section or vaginal delivery. And
okay.
then I think also if like you're having like you had like a complicated delivery and you like needed more time to heal, you could request to take even more time off. So you could take up to 26 weeks off, but that's only if you had like you have to get that approved by your doctor. Um,
Well,
yeah, but yeah,
I follow a lot of advocates on LinkedIn, and there's one lady I can't even pronounce her name, Rashim something. She founded a something years ago called Girls Who Code, but she's a huge advocate and really lobbying. She has this whole movement lobbying our Congress to raise awareness and have maternity more maternity leave. And when I as doing research for this show and another, I interviewed an OBGYN from Ghana the other day. We were talking about the differences in Ghana. They just have, well, it's just a very different, they definitely have paid time off. I mean, I was shocked, Elizabeth, like that when you look at the charts, like even up until 5 or 6 years ago, like there was zero. And then like we're down there in the bottom five of all the countries in the world that have like time off.
mm,
I mean, I can understand some of the countries have a year, but I mean, it seems if I would personally love to see like 6 months for everybody or maybe a long.
yes, same,
There's a big
yes,
movement now and people just need to get involved. But I don't think if you haven't had kids, I don't think they're too far removed. I was shocked to learn that the US had like no paid time off or very little for women until
Hmm.
years ago.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your new project. And I don't know how you have time for it now if you're working full time and a full time, but let's talk about the Real Moms Club and what your goals are and how it works and all things Real Moms Club.
Yeah, sure. So the time part is tricky. Um, just kind of working on it, and the pockets of my time that I have. But so, like I said, my true passion is still helping the postpartum moms and the babies. So that's why I created this new space for new moms. It's called the Real Moms Club, and it's a community for new moms. I mean, you don't have to necessarily be a first time mom. You can be like a second or third time mom, but my like target audience is for first time moms, and it comes with my digital course called the Confident Moms Course. So I'm putting my postpartum knowledge to use here. I talk about postpartum care, baby care, breastfeeding and bottle feeding information, and maternal mental health, like the different stages. I'm also talking about infant safety, so like infant CPR, infant choking. So part of my community, they will get my course, and then also we'll have like weekly group lactation sessions, support sessions. So I have two lactation consultants on my team, and then I also have two mental health coaches. So we're not offering like therapy support, or like we're not diagnosing or treating or prescribing anyone. It's just kind of there for like a coaching, like group support session, like an emotional support for new moms. So the two mental health coaches are also perinatal. They specialize in perinatal like mental health as well. So that would it's like a great fit for our group. And then there's also an option too, where if you don't want to be part of the Real Moms Club, you can just choose to buy the course, but then you don't get the support with like the group sessions. And then you also will get a private app once you're in the community. So if you want to message one of the other moms a questions, or me, or want to ask one of the lactation consultants a question on the app, you can do that as well.
Wow, lots of yeah. I mean, I did you grow up? Well, I'm curious if you had siblings and did you grow up like around nieces and nephews, or was this like when you took home your baby, like this is all new for me, or did you have a lot of experience with kids?
I'm actually the only child, and I don't have any nieces. So obviously, I don't have any nieces or nephews. But I just like loved working with babies and being around babies. So, I mean, like I said, I had like the experience as a postpartum nurse on how to take care of a baby when we brought him home. But it was just like that mental, like emotional part that I wasn't quite prepared for. But I knew I wanted to create the space for new moms, just because if I knew if I like I couldn't be the only one experiencing like all these things, and I wish that there was a community like the one I'm creating when I had my son. So to be around other moms who are experiencing the same thing, walking the same journey, I feel like is key for support, to just be surrounded by a bunch of like-minded women and moms, and then also have access to like a mental health coach and a lactation consultant. If I had a breastfeeding question, I can just like message them on the app. So I feel like I would have felt more like supported during my postpartum journey if I had that
You didn't have
available.
someone to reach out. So with your Real Moms Club, once they're in this community, you said that yeah, there's an app and then they can just reach out like, hey, I don't know, my baby won't stop crying. It's been 5 hours kind of thing. Well,
Yeah. Yep.
you,
Yep. They get access to me. They can ask like whatever they want
I think that's
on the
beautiful.
app.
Because I mean, at least I mean, I guess there's all these Facebook groups and Instagram groups, but one thing, and unless you're a parent, I would imagine you're in a whole different space as far as the things on your mind. Like this is just something that just came up when you were talking about it. Like again, I swim every day. So at our gym at this LA Fitness, so when you walk in the gym, there is like a nursery or a babysitting area. And I love to look over at the kids, but it's never so the pool area, there's like different entrances, but one of the doors um is just across from the daycare center. So like let's say in the last 4 years I've been going to this gym, it never occurred to me once or well, that door is always closed. That's not where anybody enters. They go around to the locker room and come through that way. But and it's alarmed. It's really more of an emergency exit. But a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago, the aerobics, our dance instructor said, I can't open this door. She would open two doors to let air in the chlorine. People can be very sensitive. And one of the mothers at the daycare center came unglued and had a fit and went to management and basically said, I don't want that door ever open because somebody from the daycare a kid could wander out and get in the pool. So like for us anybody who's never had kids, like, and everybody in the class is like, for heaven's sakes, there's always, people in the pool, no one's going to drown. But I never had entered my consciousness, Elizabeth, but I wasn't mad at that woman at all because if I had a child, see, I'd be thinking very differently because kids do drown every day. And now we're in the summer. I
Mhm.
wasn't mad at her at all for she has to open a different door, but just the things that you're top of mind, right? With your safety.
Right.
But it was just interesting. So what are like what are the most common things people like have a difficult time with as a new mom besides the sleep? Like what are the main topics that come up? Well, you mentioned the lactation. Are a lot of women struggling with that initially?
Yeah, yeah, breastfeeding's rough. Like I even knew how to
Looks rough.
breastfeed and I still had issues. Like it hurts, it's painful at first. And it's yeah, if you don't sometimes women don't, they get lucky, they have like the perfect baby that latches on beautifully, but for the most part, like it's a learning curve. And also every baby's different. So you could have one baby, your first baby breastfeed fine, but then the second baby, like there could be different anatomy stuff that's going on inside the mouth. There's could be like issues with producing milk too. So that's definitely breastfeeding is definitely a big factor for new moms that you struggle with initially. And then I think also just like I knew you would be sleep deprived. Like everyone knows that, but it's just like how much like how the sleep deprivation can affect you too and your mood and like everything. Like I just need like 3 hours of consecutive sleep and then I think I'll be fine, but it's so like broken up and choppy that in the beginning it's like difficult to function.
How long did it take your son to be able to sleep through the night?
Oh, a good year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's something like developmentally that happened when he turned a year old, but it was definitely a year before he would be able to sleep throughout the night. So it was rough.
And when you got up, because usually I do know a lot of married couples have told me like, okay, these are my nights, these are his nights, and I get to sleep. But I have known a couple women that were like, if I'm getting up, he's getting up. And to me, that was a little part of me was like, well, that's awful. Like you don't both have to wake up. I mean, I don't know, like it just seemed unnecessary. I know if I was married, and he was working. I don't think I'd want to wake him up if he didn't have to be up. I don't know.
Right.
How,
Yeah, same.
yeah, like,
Yeah, well, mainly I got up anyways because he was still breastfeeding too. So I was like, well, he probably just is hungry. He has to eat. So it's not like my husband can do
yeah.
can do that.
And
Um, and then I
how long was he breastfeeding for?
10 months.
Okay.
I couldn't go a whole year because I was like, I'm done. Because I mainly pumped too, because oh, I don't know, like I just couldn't take the pain from breastfeeding. And I know they say like breastfeeding shouldn't hurt when you if you're doing it correctly, but no, like it hurts at first. Like I even told my patients that before I had my son. I'm like, why did I tell people that? Like, no, it's gonna hurt at first. It always hurts at
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. It looks like it, just that the contraption, anyway, I'd love to know if it's too personal, that's okay. I'm just curious because this conversation came up many years ago. I have one of my oldest friends. We were friends since high school. He's been an ER doctor in New York for like 40 years now. And they have their kids are all grown. He had three kids, but I remember it was like 15 or 20 years ago. He said something that which made me feel really bad. That he didn't look at his wife the same after the children. It was hard. Like he looked at her more like he's like, and she still looked great. It wasn't that. He said, I just look at her like a mother now. And I thought it's hard to explain, but like he wasn't does as a woman, like because you've been breastfeeding, I like most of the women my age that have had kids, they've all had like tummy tucks and breast lifts, like, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge because if I was in that position and I was married, I guess you want to be as desirable to your mate as possible and self-esteem. Did you have any of those kinds of issues after childbirth, after, breastfeeding with your self-esteem and physical appearance, or did you feel like just as sexy as ever, or
Yeah.
appealing? Well, I would imagine that things like that, because not all women do. Some are, I think it depends on your partner. Like if your partner makes you feel
Hmm.
but not all men are do, right? And if when you're
Yeah. No, my husband's like very supportive. Like I never really had any self-esteem issues or anything like that. Um, so yeah, no, he always like made me feel wanted. Like he's great. Like I
no,
never had that issue.
no, well, I bet I know a gal in Hawaii. So she had like, major breast cancer reconstructive. She went through a lot, but she was telling me, and her husband was wonderful. She said he even changed the bandages for her, which is beautiful
Oh,
because she couldn't, right? But she said
yeah.
she had a couple women that she was going through the whole treatment process, and their husbands left, like it was too much for them. So you'd like to
Oh
think
my
that
gosh.
I know you hope that your partner, whether it's childbirth or you get sick, all the things that you take vows to be there for, but it's a lot.
Hmm.
So what do you hope? So with the Real Moms Club, I'd love how is it right now? Is it just in Boston? Are you hoping to keep it small and cozy, or do you want this to be like a national thing? What are the big dreams and hopes?
Oh yeah. I mean, the dream national because it's all online and I don't have like a brick and mortar, so everything is digital. So it could be, I guess, anywhere in the world that speaks English.
Oh,
Um, yeah, so it
well,
doesn't have to be like specific to Boston.
okay. And actually now with AI, even if yeah, they you can get an AI bot. There one of the AI companies released something this week. I can't remember because there's so much every day now, but it does live translations. There's AI programs that you put in your video and it'll turn it to 100 languages. But now there's one like
Um,
while you were talking, you could be we you it could be turning it into Korean. If I was Korean and you wanted to speak with
yeah.
me, yeah, you could be.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah.
I am Korean, actually.
All right. What are there any like cultural nuances like as far as Korea? Like this man I spoke with from Ghana the other day, this OBGYN. He's in New Mexico now. He lives here and he's doing like he's in policy making, but he was just it's so culturally different because they're just so community orientated. So like it's
Yeah.
expected when you have a baby. Well, here in the US, everyone like you luckily your in-laws are just it sounds like 1 hour away, but your parents are, 12 hours away. So
Yeah.
so many people are the families are scattered here and so you don't like you said, we were just kind of like on our own. He's like in Ghana, he goes, it's just kind of expected. You don't even everyone's going to be at your house for the next 6 months or a year. And
Mm.
I have a condo in San Diego, and all of my tenants have been from India for the last 13 years. So whenever somebody has a baby, like Indian culture, maybe the parents are retired, but they must be. But like one set of in-laws comes for 6 months and stays with them, and then when they leave is like their visa requirement or visa max, and then the other set of
Mhm.
parents. That's happened numerous times, and I think how
Oh,
lucky.
wow.
Yeah, well, I think how beautiful and how lucky, because most of them are working full time still. So they're rarely appreciative. But I know in American culture, I don't like it's something that we don't do here. And a lot of people would be like, what, your parents are going to be here for 6 months? Oh my God, no, no way. But it's
Mhm.
culturally. So how about what's it like in Korea?
Um, I mean, I've never lived in Korea, so I'm not entirely sure, but I know it. I visited for 5 weeks after I graduated high school, and it is very much like a family unit. Like you still live with your parents and like your spouse in one apartment, and your kids still live with
Okay.
their grandparents. And so like you don't move out, you just kind of like still live in the same apartment. And I think I heard she's like kind of a friend of her friend. Her husband was in the army, and he got stationed in Korea, and she had like one of her kids in Korea, and the nurses kept trying to take the baby from her to go to the nursery so she could rest. But like this friend was like, no, 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 like I want my baby with me, and they kept trying to like take the baby away because they wanted to focus more on like the mom resting too, whereas our floors here in the US, they're like the baby needs to stay with you. We try to like we push rooming in, just so you can get to know the baby. And it's like totally different in South Korea because they like focus a lot on the mom too, and like the recovery and like sleep and like her nutrition. Whereas here, like you keep your baby, you take care of your baby. You need to learn how in the hospital. So that's very different.
Well, I'm so glad you didn't have any of that postpartum depression. I think until a few years ago, I think unless you've experienced it, it's hard to even imagine that kind of depression. And I
Mm.
I had there was one particular Oprah Winfrey episode that really changed my thoughts on that. It was years ago, because she's been off the air, but she was on for 25 years, and they were a
Yeah.
family came on. Their daughter had ta died by suicide, postpartum. She had a couple kids, and it was like her second or third. But they said, this is such a real thing because a lot of people don't. She was this very vibrant, outgoing, like you, and just our hour here together, you seem very bubbly and outgoing. So they said she had just this kind of a effervescent personality. She wasn't this chronically depressed person, and the hormonal, and so and then the sleep. I mean, you mentioned the sleep and how difficult that there's been a lot of sleep research, and so I don't, you probably know this already, but if you didn't, there's like four stages of sleep, and there's something called REM, rapid eye movement, where we dream. And they, in all the sleep research, and they've known this for like for over 40 years, that if someone doesn't get that REM sleep, which I would imagine you're not if you're up every couple hours, you can present like with schizophrenic kind of symptoms,
Hmm.
and if it happened like on a regular basis, what
Right, right, yeah.
What's what I know, since we were talking about the cultural differences, like in the United States, most people don't have their, like after a few months they put the baby in another room in their own crib. But most people I know from other cultures, like their baby's in bed with them till like 6 years old or even older. What's it like in your home? Any thoughts on that?
Um, yeah, well, he
Unless
definitely sleeps in his own room. Yeah. He did sleep with us in the same room until he grew out of his bassinet. So maybe like 3 months, 4 months, he was in our room, in the bassinet. But then once he grew out, like our room wasn't big enough to have a crib in. So we moved him to his own room around, I think, 4, 5 months. No, definitely 4 months, because that's when he went through that 4 month sleep regression, which was awful. The 4 month sleep regression is no joke. Oh my gosh.
what'd you call the
Um,
four-month sleep?
Sleep regression.
Okay, I haven't heard that phrase.
Yeah, they around 4 months, like a lot of babies go through this 4 month sleep regression where they're like learning new skills, like usually like rolling over from front to back or back to front. And so whenever they learn a new skill, sleep usually goes poorly.
Okay.
It was awful because he kept rolling over in his sleep. So we would have to go in multiple times a night trying to roll him back over on his back because he couldn't roll from back to back, like, or belly to back. He could roll the opposite way. But anyways, so he has his own room. Like maybe like 8 months ago or a year ago, he started climbing out of his bed in the middle of the night and coming into our room. And so eventually, like after so many times, I just got sick and tired of like walking him back to his room. So I let him sleep with us in our bed. But I didn't want him to get used to that because once he's like in our bed, no one really sleeps well besides him because toddlers so much in their sleep. It's crazy. So, like, my husband doesn't really get good rest, and then I don't get good rest because then I have to get up for work too. So eventually, like, we kind of cut that habit out, and then now he just sleeps in his room in his own crib. We don't co-sleep. And then, but you definitely shouldn't co-sleep like having a newborn in the bed with you at first, just because it increases the risk for SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. And the babies, like newborn babies, shouldn't be on a soft mattress. They need to be on like a hard mattress. Um, and you worry about like the blankets going over their face if you have the baby in bed with you, or like you or your partner rolling over on top of the baby in the bed. Like I'm talking about like newborn babies, not like toddlers. But so yeah, definitely don't recommend co-sleeping with a newborn just because of the risks of SIDS or maybe the baby falling off of the bed or something. So
Well, let's we're nearing the hour, so I know you're busy. Let's so if somebody wants to participate in the Real Moms Club, I'll put up you have is there a website? Is it up and running now?
it is. It's Elisabeth Coursen, and Elizabeth is with an S, and Coursen is COURSEN.com. Then I also can give your listeners a freebie for new moms. It's like my ultimate postpartum moms checklist too. I can send you the link for
Oh,
that.
I love that. That would be so sweet. Is there anything that
Yeah.
you want to bring up that I didn't, that I might not have asked that you would feel like is really important for somebody who's a new mom, first time mom, that I might have left
Um,
out? I
I
know
don't think so. I think you did really good at covering all
we
the topics.
it's kind of just jumped all over, but I love the personal stories, and I like to have cultural differences, but I definitely want to talk. I mean, as much mo help as we can get from mothers and dads, but well, I know that some of them it's just so overwhelming they take their lives, and then we want to bring in support
Mhm.
and tools, and I'd love to be able to help my friends with their deliver. I don't know why they don't take me up on the babysitting.
I don't know.
I would love it. I would love
You
it.
can come near me. I'll use you.
I know. Well, also even like the co-op thing. Like I have a chiropractic patient. It was so cute. She bring her dog to her appointment last week, and so she's like in her neighbor. There's about four of them because some of them, with all the some work from home, they have hybrid. So, but they help each other like with their dogs. Like, okay, we're leaving them at
Oh,
house all day, and then I have them on the weekends because so and so's taking a trip. I've never seen anybody like have a doggy co-op like this. But I have wondered, like, why aren't more people with kids doing
that's a
this?
good idea.
Like if you don't have family around, you've got to know other people with kids. So like, hey, anybody who wants to go out and have a date night, let's do this like maybe once or twice a month. This Saturday night, I'll watch all the kids and you guys go out. But I don't see a lot of that unless it's just too
Hmm.
stressful or liability thing. But the doggy co-op, that was amazing.
That's a good idea.
Right? Because, well, she's in an
Yeah.
apartment and now she has to work. LA, I'm sure you've heard. I don't know what Boston's like, but the traffic. So her dog would
Oh,
be
Boston's
alone.
awful.
Right. So her dog would be alone for like 10 to 12 hours, but with traffic. And now
Oh,
that she just got called back into the office like a year ago. Well, she started a new job for 4.5 years. She was working from home. So, but it really helps everyone. Just even dog care now, it's like $100 a day to have someone. Yeah.
mm.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
It adds up. You want to just go away. Yeah. So I wish I could see that. Maybe if I was there, I would offer to babysit for. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I hope we have another, and I will, when I edit this, I will send you a copy and then feel free to share on your socials. And I look forward I'll just keep following you on your socials. It's really fun and you post some really fun
Yeah.
stuff. Okay.
Oh, thank you for having me. And I'll send you the link too to post for like my freebie for my the checklist for new moms.
I love that. Okay. I love a checklist, like an earthquake checklist.
Me
And
too.
I just do. It's easy to forget things. So thank you and have a great weekend. Okay.
Thanks, you too.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us for another episode of American Mood Swings, where we talk about the brain and all things mental health. Hope to see you next week, and please share with your friends.